Hello and welcome to the news on NTAi International. I am Dennis Adegunloye. Thanks for joining us. Let's bring you the headlines. Update on coup in Gabon. Junta reopens borders as protesters in Niger demand French military departure. UNICEF says African children least able to cope with climate risks. And Nigerian government to make contractors sign agreements on years of road durability. Gabon's military say they have decided with immediate effect to reopen the country's land, sea and air borders closed in the wake of the military coup that ousted President Ali Bongo. A spokesperson for Gabon's military rulers made the announcement on state TV. A group of 12 Gabonese soldiers announced on Wednesday that the country's borders were closed until further notice in a broadcast statement. General Bryce Oligui Nguema, the head of the elite Republican Guard, is due to be sworn in as transitional president on Monday. However, as pressure mounts on the coup leader to hand back power to a civilian government, Nguema says he wants to avoid rushing into elections that repeat past mistakes, adding that suspension of democracy is only temporary. And protesters outside a French military base as pressure mounts on France's ambassador and about 1,500 soldiers to leave country. Uche Ugochukwu tells us more.
Thousands of people gather in Niamey, the capital of Niger, to call on France to withdraw its troops from the country, as requested by the military who took power in the country in July. The demonstrations took place near a base housing French soldiers at the request of several civil organizations hostile to French military presence in the West African country. Participants brandished banners urging France to leave Niger. The rally comes a day after the country's military regime launched a new verbal attack on France, accusing Paris of blatant interference in its support for the country's deposed president. President Mohamed Bazoum, a French ally, was detained on July 26 by members of his guard. Relations with France, the country's former colonial power and ally in its fight against jihadism, went swiftly downhill after Paris stood by Bazoum. Meanwhile, Sylvain Iter, France's ambassador to Niger, has remained in Niger despite a 48-hour deadline to leave the country more than a week ago, a decision French President Emmanuel Macron said he applauds. Uche Ugochukwu, NTAi News.
And as global condemnation continues over the spate of military coups in some African countries, the Minority Caucus of the House of Representatives has registered it in strong terms its displeasure at the growing trend of what it calls military adventurism on the continent. In a statement, leader of the House Minority Caucus, Kingsley Chinda, notes that military incursion in some African countries is worrisome, rolling back the gains of the democratic struggles for return to civil rule since the late 80s and 90s. While condemning military coups in Sudan, Mali, Tunisia, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, and recently Gabon, the House Minority Caucus observed that these countries are in the western, northern and central regions of Africa, which represents more than half of the entire continent. It urges all leaders in Africa to pursue and enthrone good governance as the only panacea to arresting military interruption of constitutional democracy in parts of the continent. UN Children's Agency says children in Africa are vulnerable to climate change but are ignored by those responsible for funding the fight against the crisis. Uche Ugochukwu reports that this concern is coming ahead of the first ever Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi, Kenya.
In a report titled Time to Act, UN Children's Agency UNICEF says Africa, which is a continent of 1.2 billion people, is home to some of the countries least responsible for carbon emissions, but is hit hard by drought, floodings, storms and heat waves. Children in 48 of the 49 countries assessed by the report are at high or extremely high risk of climate shocks.
The young people in Africa have done the least to change the climate, but they are receiving the most of the effect and the worst of its effect. 17% of the global population is on the continent, and 70% of the population on the continent is under 30.
These children are said to be neglected by the key climate financing flows required to help them adapt, survive and respond to the climate crisis. Children living in Nigeria, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Chad, the Central African Republic and Somalia are at the most risk. A key concern is exposure to diseases, as children face a deadly combination of intensified exposure to multiple and increasingly severe shocks. The UN agency said that less than 3% of global funding to tackle climate change was directed at children and called for more to be done, especially by the private sector.
Locally and internationally, to support adaptation to climate change, to invest in climate solution. And there is really an opportunity with the summit that takes place this week and next to accelerate action, to really deliver the financial commitments that have been made since years, so that we can build this rapid and essential impact needed.
The UNICEF report was published days before the first ever Africa Climate Summit in the Kenyan capital Nairobi next week. The conference is designed to showcase Africa as a potential powerhouse for green energy in the first of big meetings ahead of crunch UN talks. With the world far adrift of its goal of slashing carbon emissions and communities battered by extreme weather events, the climate conference will open Monday to Wednesday. Uche Ugochukwu, NTAi News.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has underlined support for South Africa in the wake of the deadly fire in Johannesburg on Thursday, which killed at least 74 people, including 12 children. The overnight blaze ripped through a 5-story rundown building in the city centre, occupied by homeless people and squatters, as dozens were injured. The building was among many in the downtown area that have been abandoned and hijacked by criminal gangs who rent them out to families. President Cyril Ramaphosa, who visited the site, described it as a tragedy and a wake-up call, according to media reports. The UN Secretary General was deeply saddened by the news, as his spokesperson said in a statement. In this moment of great sadness and grief, he conveys his sincere condolences to the families of the victims and to the government and people of South Africa. Guterres also wished prompt recovery to the injured, adding that the United Nations country team in South Africa stands ready to work with the authorities to provide assistance to those affected by the fire and to prevent further incidents of this nature. Chinese President Xi Jinping says the world's economy is prosperous when it is open, but it will decline if it is closed, asking for unity to safeguard the hard-won free trade and multilateral trading system, share the historical opportunities for the development of global trade in services, and work together to create a better and more prosperous future for the world. Delivering a speech at the opening ceremony of this year's China International Fair for Trade in Services, KIFTIS, on Saturday in Beijing, the president announced a series of measures that are due to be implemented by his government, including the relaxation of market access to the service industry and the building of a national trading market for voluntary reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, which would support the service industry in playing a greater role in green developments. He affirmed that the fruits of Chinese-style modernization will be shared while focusing on expanding domestic demand, speeding up the construction of a strong domestic market, and taking the initiative to expand the import of high-quality services, encouraging the expansion of the export of knowledge-intensive services, and taking advantage of China's big market opportunities to provide new driving forces for the world's development. As 2023 marks the 45th anniversary of China's reform and its opening to the international market, Xi Jinping said that his government will persist in promoting a high level of opening up to the world and provide new cooperation among all countries. The 2023 KIFTIS, which is underway in Beijing, will end on September 6th, and it is one of the world's largest and most comprehensive fairs for trade in services. Pope Francis has celebrated Mongolia's rich and ancient culture this Saturday during the first papal visit to the country, while warning the young democracy of risks from corruption and destruction of the environment. The 86-year-old pontiff was feted in the morning with an official welcome ceremony and an honor guard. President Ukna Kuresh, wearing a traditional deal tunic, descended a long line of red carpeted steps in front of a massive bronze statue of Genghis Khan to greet the Pope. The pontiff then addressed Mongolian dignitaries, including the presidents inside the state palace. Praising the country's ranchers and planters, respectful of the delicate balances of the ecosystem, he said Mongolia's tradition of living in harmony with nature and its creatures can contribute significantly to the urgent and no longer deferrable efforts to protect and preserve planet Earth. He also warned that corruption was the fruit of a utilitarian and unscrupulous mentality that has impoverished whole countries. Religion can represent a safeguard against the insidious threat of corruption, which effectively represents a serious menace to the development of any human community, he said. Mongolia has been marred by corruption and environmental degradation in recent years, with its capital suffering from some of the world's worst air quality and the scandal over embezzlement sparking protests last year. Anticipating the Pope's arrival in the vast Subkapata Plaza, named for a Mongol revolutionary hero, were droves of pilgrims who had ventured from other Asian countries for a chance to catch a glimpse of the leader of the world's 1.3 billion Catholics. The pontiff's visit will provide a boost to Mongolia's Catholics, a group that numbers about 1,400, including just 25 priests and 33 nuns. At the same time, he is expected to encourage the young democracy to stand by its ideals, even as it sits sandwiched between two massive authoritarian powers. You're watching the news on NTAi International. We'll have more reports after this break. Stay with us.
You are going through the brunt of the fuel subsidy. I know the pressure and the demand and lamentation, but you understand it much better. You are the one who understands the labor pain. That is only after that pain you see the smile of a child, that you are relieved and forget the pain completely. And that's what we are going through economically. You are the one who can educate better the public to understand that we have to go through this. Cartel and thieves have been raping us and fleecing this country before now. You say enough is enough. We are taking our country back. Yes.
From humble beginnings to the extraordinary, we've witnessed incredible bonds, the rise of legends in the most challenging of times, and the most unforgettable moments that kept us at the edge of our seat. Everything up till now was just the beginning. Legends go head to head as timelines have collapsed for the ultimate showdown. Welcome to Big Brother Niger All-Stars. Proudly sponsored by Money Point, powering dreams.
in association with HFM, online trading at its finest.
Thanks for rejoining us. Now, President Bola Tinubu has directed the recall of all Korea and non-Korea ambassadors from their duty posts worldwide. The president's directive is sequel to his careful study of the present state of affairs at Nigerian consulate offices and embassies in other countries, and in line with the president's renewed hope agenda. The statements by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngalale, says the president is determined to ensure that world-class efficiency and quality will henceforth characterize foreign and domestic service delivery to citizens, residents and prospective visitors alike. To this end, the president further directs that Nigeria's United Nations permanent representatives in New York and Geneva be exempted from this total recall in view of the upcoming United Nations General Assembly holding later this month. By the directive of the president, the recall of the affected officers is with immediate effect. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, is proposing a new target for contractors handling federal road projects across the country, where they will sign a written agreement stipulating that roads constructed by them will last for at least 30 years. The minister stated this at the palace of the Oni of Ife, where he paid a homage to during his inspection of federal roads in Osun State. Femi Afariogun has details.
In continuation of his inspection of federal roads in Southwest, the Minister of Works, David Umahi, inspected Mayfair Junction, Lagere, Iremo, and Nua Ilesha Bypass Road in Osun State. Starting from Ilefe, the 22-kilometer road project, awarded in the year 2010, is just at 46% completion due to inadequate budgetary allocation and unresolved compensation to houses demolished. At the palace of Oni of Ife, Obainito Ogunwusi, the minister lamented the rate at which road projects fail, promising to ensure speedy completion of the project.
And within 5 years, the road is gone. So there's no nation that can progress with this kind of arrangement. We are just going round. So much, motions and yet no movement. So people are, frustrating me by giving me very unreasonable concrete price. I will not stop them from doing Ashfa, but there must be a commitment. For 30 years, the road will not fail.
The Oni of Ife, Obainito Ogunwusi, appealed to federal government to speed up work on the road.
Well, we will see how to make it, to get an instruction for the demolition, because...
We've done, I went to supervise it myself.
You've done already?
Done. No issue concerning that. It's embarrassing.
It's a priority.
I see it's like a war-torn environment.
The minister also inspected part of Ibadan-Ife Ilesha Expressway. Femi Afariogun, NTAi News.
The federal government has resolved to encourage and improve funding for local research of new drugs and vaccines in line with the renewed hope agenda on health. Coordinating Minister of Health, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, said this at an event to mark the 2023 African Traditional Medicine Week in Abuja. Basi Taikman reports.
In recognition of the significance of African traditional medicine and its integral role in enhancing health and well-being across the African continent, experts stressed the need for improved funding and research. They noted this is to leverage the contribution of traditional medicine in the growth of the health sector. The Minister of Health representative revealed government's intention for the sector.
Our approach to optimizing the strength of our traditional medicine will also focus on favorable policies, institutional and political support, our rich biodiversity, qualitative data, scientific research, and the use of innovation to optimize the contribution of traditional medicine to universal health coverage.
In 60s or 70s, when you approach any traditional medicine, he will tell you that no, I will not be part because they are trying to steal my knowledge. But for today, the traditional medicine has gone to a certain level whereby even the WHO has recognized that 85 to 90% of the world population today depend on traditional medicine. So
WHO and other development partners noted that traditional medicine remains an embodiment of the African entity, resilience, and heritage. Approximately 80% of the population seek solace in traditional medicine for fundamental health needs.
African traditional medicine, deeply intertwined with indigenous herbalism and rooted in the tapestry of African spirituality and culture, stands as a beacon of accessibility, affordability, and trust for millions across our continent.
This year's theme, the contribution of traditional medicine to holistic health and well-being for all, took the center stage at inaugural 2023 WHO Traditional Medicine Global Summit held in India. The forum activated political commitment and evidence-based action on traditional medicine as a first port of call for millions of people worldwide to address their health needs. Basi Taipa, NTAi News.
And more from the Minister of Works, David Umahi, who has expressed the federal government's commitment to prioritize all federal road projects in Nigeria with the use of concrete technology that will make the roads durable for the next 50 years. He stated this while on inspection of the ongoing Akure-Ado dualization road project in Akure, Ondo State, as part of his working visit to federal roads in the southwest geopolitical zone. Tony Batire reports.
The Akure-Ado road has been in a deplorable state for many years now, but 3 months ago, respite came the way of the road users with its flag off by the federal government as rehabilitation work has since commenced on the dualization project, which is expected to go up over 90 billion naira. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, during a stop on the road, said that the project is already marked down for concrete design layout as against the asphalt design layout that was originally planned, which according to him aims at giving the road a durable lifespan. The minister was also at the Ondo State Governor's office, where he was received by the acting governor, Lucky Ayedatiwa, and other executive council members, where he said that prioritizing federal roads at this time became imperative for national growth. Umahi promised that the present administration will not leave any federal road unattended to, as it is a new beginning in critical infrastructure development.
Let me put it on record that the bitumen imported into Nigeria in the 50s and 60s were of much better quality than what we have today. And so we have a lot of problems in our hands. That's why we encourage us to introduce the concrete road requirements.
The state is in dire need of immediate attention of the federal government so as to ameliorate the suffering of our motorists traversing our beloved landscapes.
The Akure-Ado dualization road project is expected to be completed within 24 months. In Akure, Tony Batire, NTAi News.
In a bid to reduce the hardship being experienced by the citizens and residents of Imo State as a result of removal of fuel subsidy by the federal government, Governor Hope Uzodinma has flagged off the distribution of post-fuel subsidy removal palliatives to them. Government House correspondent Faith Igwilu has details.
Flagging off the palliative distribution at the premises of Imo State Ministry of Digital Economy and E-Governance in Owerri, Governor Hope Uzodinma announced that the acquired food items and other relief materials will come in phases, with a total of 65,000 bags of rice to be given out to the beneficiaries, which comprises of both the citizens and other residents of the state. He added that the fuel subsidy removal palliatives will provide essential support to the beneficiaries in coping with the prevailing economic situation.
I want to thank in particular the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, for the show of support he has given to Imo State.
The chairman of Imo State Government Committee on the Distribution of the Palliatives, Chief Cosmos Iwu, commended Governor Hope Uzodinma for his people-oriented governance which he says has impacted positively on the citizenry. He also promised that the palliatives will be distributed to all the beneficiaries.
All these things are aimed at reducing the effect of removal of petroleum subsidies.
The people expected to benefit from the phase 1 of the palliatives distribution include artisans, civil servants, traders, staff of federal and state parastatals, among other groups of people. In Owerri, I am Faith Iguilo, NTAi News.
Based on security, the Nigerian army will remain professional, disciplined, and committed to the Nigerian projects by protecting its territorial integrity against internal and external aggression. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja gave the assurance while addressing troops of
Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja arrived in Damaturu, the Yobe State capital, via Maiduguri. In line with the military tradition, the Chief of Army Staff then inspected the Guard of Honor mounted by soldiers of Sector 2 Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai, Damaturu. Addressing the troops, the Army Chief stated that his visit to the theater of operations in Northeast is to reassess, revigorate, and ginger troops fighting Boko Haram insurgents in the region. General Lagbaja, who took note of the challenges the troops are facing in prosecuting the war against enemies of the state, gave his commitment to do more to address identified operational impediments.
Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR.
Well, apologies for the audio loss in parts of that report. We'll try and get it better for you on our network news. Before we go, a quick look at the weather prospect for Sunday. And that concludes the news on NTAi International. Many thanks for watching. I am Dennis Adigunloye.